Hey, what's up guys, it's T-Bone here and welcome back to another episode of playing Legendary Game of Heroes. So there's a lot of updates that are available for the upcoming event, Aegis Prominence. And in today's episode, what I want to do actually is something a little different. I'm going to showcase a video that's available on the network's Facebook page because it features the entire deck and also relics. So I'm going to use that to talk about the game mechanics, we'll talk about the cards, and then we're going to come back and take a look at some of the newsfeed updates for some of the changes that are coming so that we can sort of know what to expect. So without further ado, let's go right into the video now and let's see how the actual gameplay is like. What you're seeing here is a full deck with one event card, one support card, 2 ultra rare, and finally a master collection times 13 card. It also has 5 full relics at level 6. None of the cards are are awakened, but they're all max level. Okay, so let's see how this deck is being played right now. So you can see that with 5 relics, there's almost full board of fire gems. But notice that the battle skills aren't used right away. Okay. And you'll see that they don't actually do, use the battle skill until turn 3, because notice the card second to the left, there's a little symbol on top of it. That is Thula, that is the support card. That symbol indicates that a passive skill has been activated, and there are cards that benefit from that passive. In fact, all the other cards benefit from the passive, and that's why you want to wait until that passive is available before actually activating the battle skills. Now, you may not have noticed because I was talking about this, but pay attention again to Thula when the battle skill is activated and see what happens there. So I believe, so every 3 turns, her passive will activate. And when you use her skill, I guess they're using the other battle skills there, but when she used her skill, you'll notice that there were 3 power gems created. Okay, so this is the first time a support card actually spawns multiple power gems. It's not the first time that a support card spawns power gem, but this is the first one that actually spawns multiple as a free card. So that's really cool. And you can also see that the ultra rare and the ultra rare obviously are gem destroyers. So you notice that as the battle skills are used, we're going to see this in the next turn here. It will destroy gems, and at the same time, whenever it destroys gems, it also creates power gems. Now, the mechanic for how power gems are created is based on the number of gems that gets destroyed on the board. Okay, so for the master collection number times 13, it's basically every 5 gems destroyed creates a power gem 3. Okay, and the ultra rare is at 6 stars, I believe. For every 5 gems destroyed, it will create a power gem 2. Now, finally, we come to the event card on the far left. That's Worry. It's got a passive that is a revive, just like the previous cards, such as Wendy. Okay, so you can see that it revives, it fully heals because of intensity, and also provides a damage boost for 2 turns here. And this card is also a nuke card. But the way this card nukes is a little different in that it will actually triple in damage if the passive ability is available. Okay, so that is where it benefits from Thula's ability. Now, how does the ultra rare and ultra rare benefit from it? You'll see that when the passive is actually activated, you see this in the previous fights. Whenever Thula or Bwari actually uses battle skill, they also use that as well, and that is what they call Mimic. Okay, so that is a brand new concept mechanic in the cards, and now we're going to take a look at them in a little bit more detail to talk about the new pieces that were not previously available in other cards. So hopefully that video with some explanation is helpful, because now we're going to take a look at the cards themselves to talk about what it is that they do. Okay, so I'm only going to focus on the parts that I talked about, and not really going to focus on a lot of other things. So we talked about this already. You can see it has a passive for revive, and here it will attack for 10. So the actual numbers, it attacks for 10,000% attack, and another 10,000% for every 25 creature intensity. All right, so it's a pretty big new card, and when Thula's Firestorm is active, it triples that attack. Okay, so it's a when it's tripled, it can actually deal some significant damage, especially as the intensity goes up. So it's a really powerful card to have. And then we can take a look at Thula. So this is a very interesting card. Not only does it actually create power gems, so you can see it spawns 2 power gem once of but it also spawns it for the enemy's weak affinity. So what that means is it no longer is guaranteed to just spawn fire gems regardless of the scenario. Depending on the boss that you fight against, it will actually create a power gem of a weak affinity. So if you're fighting actually against a water hero, for example, it will actually spawn earth power gems. Okay, so that means that you can bring this card and hopefully use it in other decks. At least that's in the news feed. That is the intention here. The goal is to try and bring out a mechanic that allows you to mix and match cards of different affinities. So I think it's interesting, but I think there are still some things that are very that need to remain to be seen. Like, what happens if you use this card in a scenario with multiple boxes that are mixed affinity? What then? Right. So that one is very interesting because you often see that in a Crusader event, as you go through waves, you have bosses that have different affinities. So what then? So I'm going to check that out when the event starts. It also creates an additional power gem if Thula's Firestorm is active. So it has its own passive, and when the passive is available, it will create one. So a total of 3 power gems can be created, but at a very minimum, you can always create 2 power gems. Okay, so this is pretty cool. Now the ultra rare card, Infernal Squall, as I've mentioned before, it will destroy gems and also create gems we talked about in the video, but the passive here is brand new. So Creature Mimic. If Thula's Firestorm is active, 25% chance to automatically mimic Brawari's battle skill upon cast, and 25% chance to automatically mimic Thula's battle skill upon cast. And I believe at 6 stars it goes up to 50%. So what that means is anytime that you cast the nuke from Brawari, or when you create a power gem with Thula, there's a 50% chance with this card to also do the same thing. So you can have 2, you can nuke twice, you can create power gem twice, but it's not guaranteed. It's 50%, but this is brand new. Like something else does something, this card also mimics it, so you're basically getting double the effect. The times 13 card, ultra rare Ignisosa, does exactly the same thing, but it has 100% chance to automatically mimic. Okay, so no matter what, there's a guarantee. Okay, so as long as the Firestorm is active, and the Firestorm is active every 3 hits, I've got to go back and look at that. It will always, cast the power gem spawning as well as the nuke damage, and it also will nuke it for 3 times 300% because Thula's Firestorm is actually active. And the way the passive works here is it's every 3rd match. So it's not every 3 turns, but every 3 match hit will actually then generate the Firestorm. So you want to make sure that you actually match fire gems 3 times in a row. Then you can get the passive activated every 3 turns. Okay, so this is the deck. Okay, and with the video there, my thoughts are, well, it was up against a level 300 Ascended Doujin, which it has a 50% boost against already, but it wasn't quite able to take it down. The health was, I think, about 108 billion, and it dealt about 70 billion damage or so. So I think it's good. I think it's actually really good. But compared to some of the other really powerful decks, I think you'll notice that the power seems a little weaker in comparison, and I think it might actually, I'm not sure how it compares to the Cosmic Bunny deck, right? But from from the perspective of new mechanics, something different that allows us to move the game into a different direction, I think this is a good step, right? I'm very curious about Thula. I think this is a very interesting card with the spawning of the weak affinity. The fact is, I'm not sure how often people actually bring cards of different affinities and build a deck around it, but there are a lot of people that do, right? And this could open up possibilities for those who, 1, lack the ability to actually create power gems, and 2, just, don't have the resources to get a very full deck here. And so what you saw there was a full deck. Do I think that you need a full deck to be powerful there? Well, I think that it always is the best option, but I think there are other options that you can go with as well. I think with this particular setup, I would have actually liked to take out Barari in this full deck just because there is a severe lack of other gem creation. I think having a Domi in there would have been better, but then you need Thula because of the passive, and you can't get rid of Barari because you need the revive because you don't have ability to heal. So I think what you need to do is you need to if you had the full deck, you would probably want to have one less Infernal Squall, I think, just in favor of having more gems that actually will, I think, give you more damage. But we'll see. I mean, that is assuming if you go for a full deck, which I'm not necessarily recommending. And now, what I want to do also is talk about the updates here. So we talk about some changes. We talk about the changes are upcoming. There's actually quite a bit. And what I want to do is I'm going to talk about this in sections. Okay, so the news feed, obviously something that everyone can read. So I'm not going to spend a whole ton of time on it, but I do want to call out some very key information. So the first section we already went through because that is basically just talking about the event deck here, Aegis Prominence and Aegis Bosses. The second section here talks about two things. One is the same as what we always expect. You can actually, fight through the solo bosses, collect what you call Aegis cores, and use that to redeem rewards. Okay, you can expect that the relics are going to be enchantable, and as evidence here, you can get enchanted parchments for this week's event relic. There's also other things that you can earn as well. But the thing that's interesting here is bosses at level 151 and higher will now have two special abilities. It will block all turn delay skills and it will block all healing skills. But it will increase your attack by 50%. Okay, so if you are like me, I always bring in my Aladdin. All right, so Aladdin is a card that has passive healing skill. I believe this will be impacted because the keyword here is all. Okay, so any card that does turn delay, any card that does healing, whether it's passive or active skills, I think will be impacted by these bosses. So it's going to be a lot more challenging. Okay, so the only thing that can really help here is the revive, as we saw there, because if you can't heal, you're gonna have to find another way to stay alive longer. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how this works out because I think it provides a little bit of a challenge, and I think there's now it opens the door for different kinds of gameplay. They've also updated the card drop rate. This was something that was included a couple of weeks ago. They've now added more information, so we can take a look at that. The additional information you see is the odd of acquiring event hero cards, acquiring ultra rare, and acquiring the event relic. Okay, so we can see what the chances are there. Ascended boss updates. There are 3 things that they wanted to address with this update. Specifically, they wanted to make sure that you don't fight an ascended boss of a weaker affinity, okay, for your event. So if you spent resources to get, let's say for this event, a fire deck, you shouldn't have to fight against a water-based ascended boss, Kata. So they took that away with this update, which is a very good thing. The second thing is, it was always confusing because of the 2 slots for guild bosses. With a star there, how to coordinate, when do you attack, who do you attack. They've removed all of that. Okay, so I think up to level 201, you're only going to get one guild boss to attack. And once you hit level 201, you're now going to have 2 slots. One of them will always only spawn ascended boss, and the other one will be non-bosses. So it gives you a better way to coordinate within your guild. But then the third thing they want to do is they also want to move away from this focus in the last few events where damage is focused on guild bosses, and as a result, solo bosses just kind of mean nothing anymore. Well, the third part here, they're introducing solo legend bosses to the crusade. Okay, so just like the ascended bosses for guild, the legend bosses will start spawning at level 201 in a dedicated slot. So you have 2 slots to fight as well in your solo, so that you're not going to just be stuck with a solo boss, but you can go up to 2 solo legend boss slots. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so you can have, because you have 2 solo bosses, and then each of those will have an additional slot, so you can have 4 different bosses to fight at any given time, so you have more options as well. Okay, what I don't know is whether or not those solo legend bosses will have a much higher trophy count than the guild boss counterpart, and what that is going to change in the dynamic, I'm not sure, but it's I think it's a right step. Okay, the step in the right direction to move commander events back into more solo focus. There's other updates as well. Specifically, there are other things that if you are looking to upgrade your upgrade your cards or your relics, it is now available in the dungeons as well. So you can take a look in the newsfeed here. So that's pretty much it for this event. For this episode, I think that some of the changes that are coming, in for this, for the event, for the deck itself, they're all interesting. It's different. It's not a, super overpowered deck. So it's not like people are going to, talk about it as the most powerful deck ever. But I think that it's the changes. I think it's the intent behind the changes and really trying something new. That is what I like to see. I like to see, the game taking a different direction and, give us a challenge and allow us to play differently. I think just, my personal view, the fact that we are, spawning power gems of a weaker affinity, like a different affinity than what the card is, I would like to see something like a affinity neutral card in the future where you can truly bring a card and mix and match it with any other deck and, allow a lot more versatile gameplay. But I think, that's just my personal thinking. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but we'll see. Okay. I'm just saying that this is a good step for me, in my opinion. As far as the deck itself, do I recommend, going out and buying the full deck? I think this is what I recommend. Go through the game and make sure that you get this collection first. So get 12 million points. Make sure that you get Thula and upgrade her to 6 stars and get the other relics. See what card you get here before deciding to spend on anything. I think that having the event card is always good. Thula is obviously a good one. But I'm less excited about the ultra rare, but the mimic ability seems really cool. So I'll see. I'll see how that goes. But for me, for now, I think I'm planning on just getting the Thula and Borari, and then I'm going to try and make a deck around that. So that's it for this week's episode. Hopefully this was useful for you. Please let me know what your thoughts are on the changes here. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and comment below in the video, and I will see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Take care.